Hi, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of Moons and Mythos with myself, your co-host, Davyd Farrell, and the wonderful, delightful astrologer, mythologist, Kelley Hunter. Hi, Kelley, we're back again. How are you doing?
We're back again. This is great. Yeah, doing pretty well. Very interested in the upcoming moon cycle.
Right. So we just did a piece for the Elder Immersion a little while back about some of the energy of the Scorpio season. But this show, which is going out publicly, will be our third edition, where we take a monthly sort of preview, I guess, of the upcoming new moon, partial solar eclipse in Scorpio on the 25th of October. And then we have a full moon, full lunar eclipse, if I'm correct, in Taurus on November the 8th. And we've got a whole lot of action in between. So where are we going to start, Kelley?
Well, let's start actually with the Venus star point, which is one of the two times in Venus's 584-day cycle that it conjuncts the sun. One time is when it's retrograde and it's in front of the sun from our point of view. But this one, we had this in October this month, was on the other side of the sun when Venus is closest to the stars, and it's as if she's translating, communicating, resonating the star energy through the sun and the life force to us.
Wow.
So there's a just incredible cycle that Venus does during this. She's disappeared from the sky on the other side of the sun for almost 2 months. And this October 22nd was that peak point where she was conjunct the sun and really beaming that energy through. And this star point was at 29 of Libra on October 22nd. And it was very powerful. It was the first one in Libra, Venus's sign, since, 1 or 2 centuries, depending on how you look at it. So
this is coming up on the 22nd of October, so in a few days' time, right before the new moon, right?
Yes. And the thing is, Venus is moving more slowly because it's farther away from us. So on the new moon, which is that partial solar eclipse, she continues to be right with the sun in the same degree as the moon and the sun. So this is a Venus solar eclipse in Scorpio. And when Venus is in Libra, that's one thing, she's about balance and also about choices and about values. And love, beauty. There's so much to say about Venus. We love her. And she continues to be in alignment, but now in Scorpio with this new moon of another potent eclipse season that, since last April, May, we're in eclipse season again, and Venus is absolutely embedded in this eclipse in Scorpio. That's a different flavor of Venus than her sweet Libra side. This is more spicy, a little hot spice in there. And this is going from the choice to more of a commitment and a deep, deep exploration and shift here, because it's an eclipse, of our deepest desires. This is a water sign Scorpio that takes the deepest dive of all the signs, especially the water signs, and Venus is right in there. What is your deepest desire? And let go of anything that does not match that.
Right. So we've got this beautiful Venus star point at 29 degrees of Libra on the 22nd. And then on the 23rd, Venus actually enters Scorpio. And what I love about this is that, we've got this very powerful Scorpio season coming up. And of course, we're also working together on the Elder Immersion, which is very much about death and rebirth. It's part of the Elder energy. But what I think is beautiful is that we've been given this opportunity now to enter, for the first time in a long time, this Scorpio season where Venus is, as you say, like very spicy dark chocolate, maybe. I think that's how you described it before, which makes a lot of sense to me. But we're being given this opportunity to enter into the more challenging, shadowy aspects of this eclipse, particularly with the South Node in Scorpio at this time, but from the place of the heart. And I think that this is critical because a lot of the rest of the astrology is actually pretty challenging right now, and the world we live in is kind of challenging right now. But Venus is showing us the way, I believe, into the new Earth trajectory, which is the Uranus and Taurus that's also going on.
Well, that is where we end up with the total eclipse of the moon. Venus is still with the sun on that eclipse, and opposite Uranus, conjunct the sun, the full moon, conjunct the full eclipsed moon, Uranus. So it is a change that is led by Venus, you know, evoking, you know, from her own sign, a new, what do we want to say, cycle. Actually, it's a long new cycle that Venus will take over 100 years to for this one of the Venus star points, either the close one or the far one, to move all the way through Libra. And so this was a gift. This was an opening, and it was exactly conjunct Huamea, the Hawaiian goddess of childbirth, which was also right in that same degree with Venus, the sun and Huamea and Venus. So this adds that quantum factor of a goddess energy that is birthing and creating. And I love that she's Hawaiian. And I think it's part of, I've been hearing more and more about Lemuria lately.
Yes, yeah.
And I've known about Lemuria since I was a teenager. It just, something about that just grabbed me, and doesn't it evoke something, right? So I think the Hawaiian goddess is, you know, basically from Lemuria. I think Hawaii is a pretty strong center of the Lemurian energy.
I think so too, yeah. And we've just had this Libra equinox and the Libra new moon. And again, I think we've been given this final opportunity of choice by Venus at 29 degrees of Libra, where we have the anaretic degree. And we could possibly say that maybe that's the culmination of the entire Libra energy. And so we've been given the opportunity to make a big choice to step into a new Earth from that place of birthing, creativity, quantum, but through the heart. Or we can make another choice.
Love. That is the creative power. You know, and when we get into Scorpio, it's deep and intense. That's the Scorpio word. And with Venus there, she's intense too. You know, it's not a choice anymore. It's going for it. It's diving deep and letting go of what is getting in the way, letting go of shadow energy, letting go of any obstacles that are in the way, that need to be shed, need to be let go of. And, you know, it's like going way down deep with the Scorpio energy. And I think, you know, this is a new moon. And so I think, you know, considering the moon energy, we can go way back in our, say, our DNA, our ancestral heritage, our lineage. And I'd like to share something that I think is really relevant, especially for this new moon, that I read from Thomas Berry. It's a 1987 article, but he says, you know, he's talking about the cultural angst of the time, which clearly we're in a peak point of. And he says, you know, in terms of how we deal with cultural change, we seldom consider going to our genetic coding. Because we're generally unaware that our genetic coding provides the basic psychic and physical structure of our human experience. Not only does our genetic coding determine our identity at birth, it continues on in both its physical and psychic guidance in every cell of our bodies through the entire course of our existence. And the body, the embodiment, is so Taurus, and we're changing that quality that Venus wants to bring to our creative emergence and evolution. And this guidance from our genetic coding comes from the spontaneities within us. I just love that, because often I think of the moon as being very reactive, like it's our subconscious operating system, and we just react from that often, unless we give ourselves a moment to come from a more conscious place, a more super conscious place when we can. So I love that it sort of changed my mind about reactive into spontaneity. And we need only to listen to what we are being told through the very nature of our being. We do indeed invent our cultural coding, but this needs to have a continuity with the imperatives of our genetic coding. And then he goes on to talk about the earth as the source that carries the psychic structure as well as the physical form of every living being on earth. That's also, we're all evolving. And then he says, even beyond the earth, we need to go to the universe and inquire concerning the basic issues of reality and value, which is a Venus word. For even more than the earth, the universe carries the deep mysteries of existence within itself. And that has really, been guiding, been guiding me for the last couple of months in terms of experience and contemplating that, say, even in the deep dive of this new moon energy with Venus, we can find the love back in our, say, genetic heritage. We can find the love energy in all of the beauty of flowers and animals and, what produces and creates.
Yeah.
And we have the universal connection that is also waking up on a quantum level with the Kuiper Belt objects. And so we are really invited to go way deep, and whatever's coming up in the way, to let that go and keep our hearts open and, on all of those levels, but also honoring way back in your genetics, the love vibration that is carried in the field of the family, say, even when there's been, generations of dysfunction. And I was doing family constellations work for a while, and that's the whole principle. The field of love engages the healing.
Right. You've just said some very interesting things. I just did a recent Web of Weird podcast with Emily Watt, and we were actually talking about something very similar to this, about how our DNA, really, we're like 60% the same DNA as a cucumber, but it's how is the actual pieces arranged. And I think, I feel like I'm quite different from a cucumber in many ways, but maybe not so much.
Dolphins. How about dolphins?
Right. But the point I want to make is that, our DNA structure is being changed and can be changed. Yeah. We can do it consciously ourselves with plants, working with plants like maybe dandelion or ayahuasca, or many plants. In fact, we're realizing rapidly, particularly myself and my friend herbalist Pete Jackson-Maine, that we have the ability to consciously change our own DNA in different ways, or we can let somebody else change it, maybe to a vibration that doesn't have love. And I think this is, again, all the Saturn square Uranus in Aquarius and Taurus. We've been given these two different opportunities here, but one of them is love infused, and love is everything. But what's also happening is that as we find that vibration in our heart, as Dandelion showed us, to connect to our higher self, to our unconditional love space or fifth dimensional consciousness, that's also allowing us to get more deeply rooted in our own. Our human system is like a toroidal field. And if the central channel is nice and clear, we can be a channel directly to the stars, but also down to Mother Earth. And so we can fuse the star energy with the earth energy, which is what I believe is New Earth is going to look like. As we become galactic citizens, Mother Earth is also inviting us to ascend with her vibration. I think this is something I want to share that feels important to me, is that Mother Earth is going to go through her own process anyway, but she very graciously has invited us the opportunity to go with her, or not. It's our choice. So I think that, again, this Venus star point is Mother Earth's invitation to us back into the heart, to the space of love, so that the New Earth trajectory is based on that vibration.
Yes, well, we need the heart, and we've got to let go of the cultural impact of the mind over matter that we've been living under for a while, that we are not in control, and our minds can go wayward rather than our hearts do not. And so we're aligning the head and the heart through the intelligence of the heart energy and our emotional intelligence that is primary, and really connected to this and then the gut intelligence all together.
Yeah, we have not just one brain, and the real brains of the operation is the emperor, as they would talk about in Chinese medicine. And this guy, the monkey mind, he somehow got a little out of control, probably at some point in life, and he thought that he was in charge. But I would like to suggest that what's happening now, and this is a process that's happened to me over the last year, is that this guy got under control with the help of my higher self. He showed me, like, okay, monkey mind is really, really good at organizing things, making your life flow and work. He's not so good at the spiritual stuff, and he's certainly not like the heart. And you can't talk to plants through your lower mind. You have to talk
Or animals.
Which our upper mind, our conceptual mind, can only kind of get a concept of. It needs the heart to be able to express it. So this is definitely a journey from the mind into the heart. But as we go into the heart, we're connecting to galactic and nature consciousness, which I think is beautiful. So we've been talking a lot recently in different podcasts and even through the Artemisia immersions about the cleaning up of our terrain, so that our central channel can get nice and clean and clear, so that we become the hollow bone and we can start to really channel these energies and be in that space and that vibration all of the time. So we have this beautiful point on the 22nd, and maybe this is a good time to bring up the chart, Kelly, and we can look at the new moon eclipse on the 25th. And like I said, on the 23rd, Venus enters Scorpio, right? So it's setting up the whole piece. And Saturn's also going direct at that time, I think, right, at 18 degrees of Aquarius. So there's quite a bit going on.
Any minute.
Any minute.
And yes, it's very embedded. And this whole eclipse cycle is about just what we're just talking about, leading the way with the heart, and this also empowering our embodiment, deeply rooting our environment. Taurus is the tree hugger sign, so it wants us to like put roots down and feel a connection to deep earth. So here it is. We see there's this, and look at this, the sun and moon are at smack dab on 2 degrees, 2 degrees 00. I thought that was very interesting. And Venus is like 2+, but it's in the same degree. And we see that, that depth, that dive, that desire, that delving into our deepest desire of our hearts. And that's where we can manifest from as well. That is part of the creative energy.
Yes, for sure. I mean, again, our heart is really part of our higher mind creativity. Our heart is the third dimensional portal through which our higher mind can manifest its expressions, I think. So I totally concur with that.
Yeah, it's very center point, right, of the cross. Right. So I want to show you a couple of helpful things. Here's one of them. See over here, and this is very supportive energy to the eclipse, and this is Orcus, one of the Kuiper Belt objects, just about the same distance out as Pluto. It's in the front of the Kuiper Belt, and it's about it's an Etruscan god of the underworld, like Pluto is god of the underworld, and he is about punishing those who do not honor their oaths or agreements. And here is Ceres, the earth goddess. So this combination that's very embedded into this eclipse cycle is about honoring, remembering, and consenting and committing to our say oath to the earth. I feel that anyone who's here right now, invited into this evolutionary earth process, has made a commitment, has come and said, I will be of service. Virgo's a sign of service, and that we are needing to realign with that oath if we've gotten off track or have been diverted or misguided in some way. And some of the oaths that say are in our family lineage are not in alignment with this, or so this is part of the mystery of Scorpio, and how deep we are invited to go, to let go and bring back the love energy through this, say, discovery, this research, this deep dive. Like it's like a pearl diver going down and finding the pearls. So Japanese women, who can really hold their breath and go down and get the pearls.
You know what? This is just so amazing. As you know, you've been working with myself and others through these immersions that we've been doing. And Dandelion was the first one we did, which was very much about getting centered in the heart. And then we just completed the Artemises a little while back. And that was very much about the deep dive into the hidden stuff, the stuff that's like, maybe in the silt at the bottom of the ocean that needs to now be brought up and released. Yeah. And as part of that is all of these like soul contracts that we've talked before, and things that no longer serve us, maybe ancestral soul contracts that no longer serve us, or maybe even real life contracts that no longer serve our deeper soul commitment. Maybe we're working in a profession that is directly contravening our soul contract with Mother Earth. Maybe we're doing something harmful to the earth. So I think it's really interesting that even this is appearing in the astrology like this, and we're being urged to look deep into the recesses of our terrain. We're starting to refer to the energy field as our inner terrain. And we can see that sometimes in our terrain, there is stuff that's deeply hidden, deeply embedded, but it needs to come up and out. So I think that this is where Orcus comes into the picture. It's like, okay, let's, Artemisia style, let's look deep, find those things that need to be released and bring them to the surface for reevaluation or renegotiation.
Exactly. So yeah, the Orcus, as you see at 14 here, is very much square the nodes. So it's really being of service here. Wow. And supporting the process from another earth sign. We've got if we look at this, we've got all of the earth signs, in the last several years now, we've had both Uranus in an earth sign Taurus and Pluto still in earth sign Capricorn. And anytime there's something in Virgo, especially Ceres, the earth goddess, who, feeds the people, body and soul, and in Virgo as well. And Orcus has been, I believe, in Virgo since about 2012. I may be a little off on that. So, so this is very significant piece of work. And again, letting go of what doesn't vibrate with the high quality, love energy of Venus. And as you said, it could be things in our current life. Venus is the goddess of love. So this is going to be questioning, what's going on in relationships, either deepening or, sometimes Scorpio always wants to deepen, right? Scorpio always wants to go deeper. And every once in a while in a relationship, it's like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, I have to do some processing inside myself before I can kind of meet you there and go deeper. So that could also be this whole eclipse cycle could affect relationships too. And Venus is a goddess of money. She's a goddess of value. And we are definitely seeing that theme in this eclipse cycle. And we'll see it even more strongly when we get to the total lunar eclipse on November 8th.
Wow. Yeah, so definitely a big piece there. I just want to momentarily pause on the Orcus squaring the nodes. So we've got the nodes obviously in the north node is in Taurus and south node is in Scorpio. And again, I can see how Orcus is kind of balancing these two things. It's like what from the past, with Scorpio and South Node is very much about the hidden past, and, all of the secrets of the rich and famous, and even our own secrets from our own stories, our own soul stories. So maybe not even from this lifetime. I mean, certainly from my shamanic work, I've had to do lots of cleanup work on other timelines where other aspects of me, maybe not Davyd, but other aspects of the higher being, have got themselves into a few little pickles and needed some healing and some work like that. So, there are also other soul aspects that may be playing out on other timelines. So we've got the past there with the South Node in Taurus, but then we've got, in Scorpio, but then we've got the North Node in Taurus, which is, as we've talked about before, Mother Earth, grassroots up, the future. And it seems again like Orcus is holding that balance of like, what have you still got to do on your contract work? Where do you need to tidy up your paperwork from the office desk? Almost, right? But can you explain a little bit more about Ceres, please, Kelley? Because maybe our audience are not so familiar with her.
Yeah, Ceres, or Demeter is her Greek name, and she may be more known by that, but they named this well, they called it, well, first they called her a planet, and then they called her an asteroid because there's a whole field of asteroids. But she's the only one that is circular and large enough. She's like the shepherdess of all these asteroids.
Right.
So she's been, let's say, promoted to dwarf planet status.
Okay.
And she is the goddess who grows the food, grows the grain, especially she's known for, but she is the earth goddess who includes all life forms in her umbrella of wellness. Like under her skirt, she covers us all. And anyone who's gotten like shoved to the side or put on the fringe, she wants to bring back into the circle of wellness and the common well-being, so that she can be an advocate for that kind of thing. So that's part of, including all. And that's beautiful in Virgo, because she very much is all about the details and even the smallest things. And, if we're called to go deeper, in this deeper dive, we're also going to go under the earth, aren't we? And find that mycelium realm that, is also where the life force comes up. And I'm wondering if we will be seeing more new life forms emerging, and to be of service in particular ways.
For sure. And, I was just recording a piece for the Elder Immersion this morning with my friend and brother Pete Jackson Main. And what we're talking a lot about right now is looking at plant medicine in a new way and understanding that these are conscious beings. And we're understanding that we have a lot of misinformation about plants and maybe their toxicity and how do they react in the body. So I also think that we're being shown now more details about nature, about nature medicine, but from a higher octave. And for sure, I mean, Ceres in Virgo sounds beautiful, right? Very complementary energies, but also with that squaring the North Node in Taurus, that also is an energy that can be brought forwards into that future that many of us want, with a sort of new earth where humans and nature are very much co-creating and co-interacting. It's beautiful.
Squares are not a negative thing. A lot of people who study astrology think squares are bad, but no, that it's igniting energy we can use. It's a call to action, like work with this, you can get something done here. So, and let's also look, and what you said earlier about the letting go, and something you said reminded me to mention the black moon, Lilith, which is, this is the true black moon. And then there's the different ways of measuring the motion. This is the true black moon that goes retrograde a lot, like we see here. She's retrograde. But the mean black moon is the mean average forward motion of the black moon's position. And that black moon position is at 21-2 of Cancer on this new moon eclipse. So that's quite a bit of the Cancer. Now, the black moon in Cancer brings up the issue of the personal, which Cancer is really very personal. And it can have a lot of filters, in its personal subjective filters. And the black moon is saying, because it's such an impersonal energy, she's saying, look at your attachments, look at why you're afraid to move forward and grow and explore things in life. Why are you holding back? And it's like, let go of those attachments, which kind of goes along with this whole Scorpio energy that we're looking at with the eclipses and with the South Node in Scorpio and the new and full moon. And when we look at the full moon chart, we're going to see that the true black moon moves into Leo. And so that's going to be a shift. This process we're in, starting on this eclipse, has that personal take on things that, sentiment is not useful. If you have to run out of your house because something's going on, you can't take all your photographs. You can't take your favorite teapot, you're just going to be ready to go.
Right.
So, that's kind of where we're at. We're going into something new, and we've got to be willing, to kind of travel light, take what you can use and not
Right.
just some non-essential,
Non-essential,
and
right.
that's good reevaluation also of where we're at and what we need and what we don't need.
Mm-hmm.
Also suggesting more about the family line too, because
Uh-huh.
that's one of the meanings of Cancer. So it's also suggesting looking at that in, from that eagle's perch you always mention.
Available, which is about the Black Moon Lilith and Scorpio season. And we cottoned on to something which I think is incredibly exciting, which are these days where the true Black Moon Lilith and the mean Black Moon Lilith actually come into a place of alignment in the same space. And that day actually happens in just a couple of days' time on the 18th of October this month. I think we worked out that it happens about once a month, roughly around 17, 18, 20th. And so this month, that it's almost like, and this is, I think, why it was so beautiful it came through the Artemisias, because what I saw was a total moment of hidden, like kind of lunar higher note magic, where if we know about these hidden days of alignment, we can actually connect that axis, that vertical axis, deep into the earth and to the galactics. But it's completely hidden, and we only worked it out, I think, during that video. So I just want to refer back. So these days are important, powerful days of alignment, and we can work with the astrology in many ways, right? So just wanted to bring that in too, but it's super interesting.
Let's march through the days.
Yes, let's do that.
Between the new moon and full moon, anything that the moon is aligning with is going to be challenged to change, because in the middle, we're in between the eclipses, and we're using Venus to do this. So on the 26th, the moon is conjunct the south node. So that, naturally, it's right after the moon moves at a fairly clipping pace. Venus is going to be really slow right now, but the moon is moving. So it's going to be conjunct the south node. And, so that's going to sort of help us feel even more the tipping of the scales into the Scorpio commitment, desire. I'm on it. This is what I'm going for. And the more we know that and feel it from the heart, the more possible it is to go through and let go more quickly than we would have thought. We don't have to stew in our juices in every area.
Right. This is one of the great benefits of Scorpio season, and having Scorpio in your chart is that's that transformational quality of like death and rebirth, change, and it's being able to transform energies from something maybe that doesn't serve us into something that does. And understanding that we are the alchemists always. We have a possibility to alchemize almost any type of frequency, really.
Beautiful. And it's just what we were talking about with the Orcus energy. Let go of agreements that don't work and commit to ones that will move us forward and help us embody in really, loving, resonant, relationship with nature.
Beautiful.
We rule, we aren't, we aren't the, we have our own role as humans, because we can become conscious in a way, and we can really align heaven with earth. And we don't want to get off track there. We want to support, we want to be part of this. And some people may choose to go a different direction. But, and to some extent, the choice is made as of that, the 22nd and this eclipse. And so there's that. And then you mentioned, let's see. So we've got on the 28th, we have Jupiter retrograding back into Pisces, which is
my birthday. Which is beautiful.
Oh, happy birthday. Well, that is a beautiful energy. It's not going back as far as to join with Neptune again, as it did in April of this year, but it's also bringing in more of that compassion and that, self-compassion as well. We don't need to be, feeling like, we don't have help here, or that we're not doing good enough or whatever that might be. And that is like Venus is saying, let go of that, love yourself. honor yourself, that we can't love anybody more than we love ourselves, because, we're our primary relationship. So the unconditionality comes in here and can really help us potentially relax, potentially into that, waves of grace that are coming in and light that are coming in to our whole solar system, but we're feeling it here on Earth in our special way. And this gives us 2 months of the amplification of that, quality of energy.
Right.
To work
So
with.
if we've been making these choices, and of course we've had lots of choice points actually over the last years, and here and here, so I've been making the same prayers for a while, and this year they've come true. So where we've got this choice point again with Venus, we've got this amazingly beautiful energy of Jupiter retroing back into Pisces to help expand the energy. So even though there's a lot of challenging energies at work, there are these trackways or pathways that I see the astrology always offers us in the most beautiful and myriad of ways that we can choose to say, well, yeah, I could put my head into this really difficult frequency, or maybe I can follow this path and maybe life will be a little different, and we can call in these bigger energies and help them work for us in these different ways. So I think that's really beautiful.
It's going to help, the waters keep flowing, because, Scorpio can get a little bit stuck in the processing and trying to get every little thing, whatever that is. So this can help move us. And it's also the light energies, helping move us as well. So then we have what I say, that was on the 28th. On the 29th, Mercury moves into Scorpio, and then kind of picks up the eclipse energy here. So it keeps it moving. It'll get right into 2 degrees, and the next day or so, the 30th or 31st. Then we have on the 30th, we have Mars going retrograde.
Wow.
Here in Gemini, and you can see that Mars is going to be squaring both Neptune, but also Jupiter when it goes back into Pisces. So that's where we really want to stay in our hearts, because our minds in Gemini just can be just all over the place. And I think that is a feeling like, okay, like Mars retrograde, rein in the horses. And with all of the stuff going on, come back and, feel the flow of energy, take care of yourself, step back from it all if you need to. And Mars retrograde, the retrograde's internalized. So Mars going to go back over things and going to join with the eclipse energy, in the sense that it's going to say, what is it that you really want? Not thinking about the outer, but thinking about the internal. Where am I at? What do I want? I don't want what that person wants. And I don't agree with that statement, or, this isn't resonating to me. So Mars retrograde is going to kind of redo things, like go back over, what do I want? And what do I need to leave space for new options coming up when Mars turns forward, not until January. So
right. It's January the 12th, I think it goes forwards. I've got in my notes here, roughly.
Okay, that sounds about right. And so
long old piece, isn't it?
Rein in the horses, slow down and come back to your heart, because you can't do the head without the heart these days and be healthy, That's
very true. And can I also suggest, I often think of Gemini as being this sort of, what was my truth yesterday is still my truth today, but today's truth is slightly different because I've got some new information.
Yes.
And Mars in Gemini, I could see it in many ways as it could be very, very chaotic on those truths that we thought that we held dear, which maybe yesterday was super strong, but today suddenly we've realized that maybe our governments have not told us the truth about something, and illusions that we've been living with our whole life suddenly are shattered overnight.
Well,
and
that is part of the Neptune square for sure. And
right.
it also is new information that's coming up inside, say in our dream time, which also is about. So the dream time, especially with Jupiter going into Pisces for a couple of months, could amplify that dream time, and Mars retrograde saying, I'm listening inside. I want to hear the voice of my guides, the angels. I want to hear, something on a different level. So that could be helpful in that way. Very much about pulling back from a lot of outer stuff and not getting caught in that whole, whirlpool, merry-go-round or whatever. How do you let go of that and your attachment to that as well?
Yeah, right, exactly. All of those things. And also maybe coming to a place of conclusion about what is my truth, not what is everybody else's or what's been given to me, but what is my truth, and using that Gemini energy maybe to find that place of balance. So that Mars doesn't get too chaotic and our monkey mind starts to take over and we forget about base, and we then start to believe all kinds of crazy stuff. So that's that energy anyway, just by looking at the world around us, is very present, and that is very Neptunian, of course, with all of that kind of watery illusion energy. So I think on the one hand it could be a challenging piece, Mars retroing through Gemini, but I also think it gives us that retro ability to review our truths and what do we hold to be true for ourselves.
And Jupiter has to do with belief systems, so we really need to review what's a healthy belief system and what is not, because there's great good book by Lisa Schermerhorn called In Every Belief There Is a Lie. DELIEF. So so true. So and then if we're moving along here, Halloween, October 31st, that's when Mercury is at 2 degrees of Scorpio and really reminds us that we just had an eclipse, and we better listen in, and again, with the heart here. Then November 1st. Oh, here's another thing I wanted to bring up. I don't have it on this chart. Let me show this chart for just a moment to point out Characlo. And Characlo is at 4 degrees, so it's squaring the eclipse. So just so your eyes don't get too distracted here, I'm going to go back to this chart, remembering that Characlo is at 4 Aquarius. Now, Characlo is the consort of Chiron, and also has her own particular healing energy for holding space, especially in the sign of Aquarius. Again, like stepping back to that perspective on things, so you don't go so deep you can't resurface. And she's saying, holding the space. And this is in a very, it's an Aquarian way. So it depends on what's going on in your life, what you want to be holding the space for in an outer way, but it's also holding your inner space in a kind of higher mind overview, witnessing mind. So, if we can take our confused mind that's getting too much information and going bonkers, we can just if we can raise that a little bit to the healing of Characlo, who is discovered to have 2 rings, 2 halos. So she can be very helpful in terms of holding the space for what's going on, and also the turbulence of any process that you're going through emotionally.
Wow. And of course, for me, the symbol or the sign of Aquarius is probably the most non-dual of all of the zodiac signs. And people who have strong Aquarian energy often tend to be more non-dual in the way that they look at things, which is perhaps sometimes why some Aquarian people feel that they can be emotionally distant. But I would like to suggest that Characlo at 4 degrees of Aquarius is us holding space in our non-dual mind. Lovely. To deal with possibly some of the more challenging energies of Mars and Gemini, which is what do I believe? What do I believe? Don't believe any of it. Go to your Characlo at 4 degrees of Aquarius, Eagle's Perch, and survey everything from there and hold space for yourself from a non-dual perspective, which is also unconditional love. So I just think that's, again, amazing positioning. Wow.
Yeah, because Mars has a lot of dual energy, obviously, and so does Pisces with the 2 fish. So, we really need her. And she's a beautiful energy, Characlo is.
Well,
So,
once we get non-dual, once we become more aware of our ability to be non-dual, we can then enter into duality with a different kind of set of rules. We can start playing the dualistic game,
yes.
understanding that everything is two sides of the same
Oh,
coin. And, you know, this is now, yeah, this is where I think we're heading in New Earth, understanding that once we realize that we're non-dual and we can manifest from unconditional 5D consciousness, the game then is to say, how do I choose to manifest what's in my heart into the third dimension?
well, it's a social sign.
Right.
So how can we meet, you know, our community, our social milieu without that duality, focusing on where we disagree?
Right.
And we
Yes.
raise it to where we agree. And Venus would say so as well.
Yeah, beautiful. Down here in this realm where our terrain is clear because we've done our inner work, the hollow bone is nice and flowing, and then we can just really open up the channels so that we can start to harness from that characlo space where we're holding space for ourselves.
It can make a real difference. And the moon is conjunct Characlo on November 1st, and then goes on to conjunct Saturn, which is also in Aquarius, and also saying keep step back. So this is a particularly good day when we can step back and kind of give witness. And it's also the day where the moon is tuning right into the Saturn-Uranus square, and we're going to really feel it. So that's some kind of special activity day, and we may need even more so then to take a perspective on things and just step back before we react.
And that's the moon conjunct Saturn is the 2nd of November or the 1st?
It depends, I think, on where in the world you are.
Because that's also Day of the Dead here in Mexico, very, very powerful 24 hours from November the 1st to the 2nd. And here in Michoacan, this is an area famous for its Day of the Dead celebrations. Yeah, I mean, in amongst everything else, we have Samhain or Halloween, and we have Day of the Dead, just to add into the general kind of Scorpio spookiness of everything.
When the veils are really thin and we can tap into the other dimensions,
yeah,
and may also have shadows evoked. So we need more of this perspective on things. I don't want to go there, you know, kind of energy. And then we get to November 4th, and the moon in Pisces is conjuncting both Neptune and Jupiter. So we've got that going on. And, you know, we still see, you know, Jupiter in Aries here, but by then it will be back in Pisces, you know. And then on November 5th, now this is an important part of the full moon eclipse, Venus is going to be opposite Uranus. And this is what this whole thing is about. There's been so much Venus-Uranus activity, and we can't help but note that Venus rules Taurus also, which is where Uranus is. So a lot of this whole Uranus revolution and awakening is very connected to Venus, our values, and in Taurus, more of our physicality and more of our how we're living on the earth and what we value and what we're prioritizing in terms of, you know, how we are dealing with things. And it also includes money and value. And there's this bigger global thing going on with a financial shift. And that would be one of the days. And then when we get to the full moon, and here's the full moon, look at that. Look at that. So we have the moon being eclipsed is at 1600, and the sun is at 1600.
Wow.
The new moon was at 200. This is very unusual.
Very precise.
I know. That might be part of Sirius. You know, Virgo likes precision. But also, you know, it means, say, like it's partly at 16 degrees and yet partly just moving into 17 degrees. And if we're going to use Sabian symbols, that's where Uranus is at 17. But look over here with the sun, there Mercury is so close and Venus so close on either side of the sun. So the sun wants to, you know, is informed by both Mercury in Scorpio now. So this is a different perception level of our mental apparatus than Mercury in Libra. And so it's also so close to the South Node. I mean, whoa, this is really that washing through going on. And in order to be stronger, to be healthier, to be, in our bodies, and that's where the physical strength, the physical embodiment is really called for here. If, it's like being on an earthquake. You have to be standing very steady if the earthquake is near you, as you would have experienced recently, David,
right?
In order to not fall down, or fall back, or whatever it is, or fall in, So this is really working with our physicality.
Right, so let me just recap, because I think we just lost you for a second there. So the full moon on November the 8th is a full lunar eclipse, right?
Total eclipse, like it was in May last year too.
Mm-hmm.
This is the reverse of the one on, what was it, May 15th or something?
Mm-hmm. So that's when we had the full moon in Scorpio eclipse, right? So now we have this full moon that's conjunct Uranus and the North Node in Taurus. So it feels like a big kind of pivot point for change with Uranus, the eclipse, and the North Node. And then we've got this whole stellium racking up in Scorpio that is completely clanging all of my personal stellium chart, but that's quite a collection there, spanning just 7 degrees. So that's a super conjunction, basically.
It is. Nobody's going to miss this. There's also some things that are just going to dissolve in the awakening here. There's, whatever exposures or corruption or, nefarious dealings that it's going to be exposed. Something's changing in an obvious way that is likely to surprise everybody, no matter how much you think about what's going on. I think there's still going to be some shock value to this eclipse.
Right. I mean, taking the Eagle's Perch perspective, this is the grand finale of what has been a very epic box set, a season of drama and high intrigue and illusion, deception, and now we're going to get to see the final act, I think. And of course, it's always going to come down to the Scorpio Taurus axis to kind of reveal all of that stuff. And this is the time where the house gets brought down, and we can start to think, I believe, about working with these much more powerful creative energies that we've already discussed.
Absolutely. I was just thinking that, that it's going to be more possible, when we shed, and when whatever's going on the outer level also changes, it's going to be more possible to manifest what it is we really want and move our new earth forward, with this beautiful energy of Venus is still, with the sun. We can't see her, we can't see Mercury, but there it is under the surface, those influences, both with how we're thinking about things and let go, of negative thoughts. We have the power to do that. We are, if you're obsessed, it makes the power to do that more difficult, or if you're attached. But if you're able, you can let go of these thoughts and say, I don't want to think that way. I don't want to be thinking negatively. I don't want to, that is not my storyline that I'm going to invest my energy in, kind of thing.
Right. And what I often share with students is, from a non-dual perspective, my mantra for life is that I choose to do everything as if it was the most important thing that I'm ever going to do. But in the same moment, I'm prepared to let it go as if it wasn't something that was that important.
Oh, that is really beautiful. That really
right.
is.
And I think that's how we can consciously play the 3D game, is with that kind of energy of, like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to put my heart and soul into it, but also not be so attached to it that if it doesn't work out, that I can't let it go.
Yes. And it's also like, how is it going to manifest maybe differently than you thought? But and that's it. How specific is the outcome you're looking for? How emotionally resonant, it's like we can want to be, here's what I want to be experiencing, and we're alchemizing both our mental and emotional states of being and radiating more light. And then something else happens that, wouldn't have happened without being aligned in that way. That's better that we could have imagined, because, you know, the mind just goes by previous experience, and we are moving into unprecedented territory.
Right. And of course, you know, you will know this from doing the dandelion immersion too, but this is one of the incredible qualities that this super being dandelion teaches us, which is to be present in every moment in the fullest way possible. And in that presentness of that moment, you can let go, and you can let go into the love of the universe, and then be utterly amazed, as I am constantly, about what can be offered up by not being too attached. Having an idea of my direction, having beautiful people and beautiful things going on around me, but just allowing myself to flow through in a very Piscean way often, but just being in that place of trust. And I remember one of my teachers—
Trust, important for Scorpio. Trust is important for Scorpio, to trust your feelings.
Right. And, you know, sometimes we use the idea of the river or as the flow or as the Tao, and there's a tendency for many beings to turn around and try and swim back upstream for some reason against the flow, and also not looking at what's coming towards you. But if you just turn yourself around in the stream and start to let yourself flow down, first of all, you don't use any energy, but secondly, you also get to see all the twigs and branches and bits of wood that are coming towards you, which if you've been trying to swim the other way might have hit you over the head and caused you to drown. So a lot of this is kind of just switching our perspective and flowing with life rather than trying to battle upstream against it. You know, it's a lot less stressful and a lot less tiring, to be honest.
And here we see the black moon in Leo, which is also a sign of the heart, and also it's bringing a new dimension in. I mean, the true black moon goes back and forth a lot. It's already been in Libra. It goes back into Gemini, you know, it just dances around the center point. But we still have the mean black moon in Cancer. So at 23, you know, it's moving toward an opposition with Pluto. But anyway, you know, this is a whole nother topic. But this is about sovereignty, right? This is about your creativity coming from your heart space. And so that, and it's being, the black moon says, be authentic with yourself. You know, it has to come from there, or it's not going to match your truest and deepest desire.
And you know what I've really seen this year, well, the last couple of years working with moon energy and moon magic, is that if we make very clear prayers or requests on the new moon that are not outrageously silly or anything, but if we make them that are in accordance with our higher self and our destiny, they can become very illuminated, often fully 2 weeks later on the full moon.
Yes.
Whatever the energy is, you know. So we've got a Scorpio new moon of intentions, but then a Taurus full moon. Okay, they are being eclipsed, so the energy is a little different, but we can still see clearly if we want to reveal aspects of ourselves that no longer serve us by the full moon in Taurus, we can have revealed those and work through them so that we can start to manifest cleanly from our heart space. It's difficult work. Scorpio season is never easy. You know, as I often say, Halloween is Scorpio season one day a year for everybody else, but for us Scorpio, every day is Halloween to some extent. And you know, so working in those hidden spaces is something that I'm used to, and I understand that for many people it's not so easy. But if we can be brave and work with our plant allies, the likes of the dandelions and the artemisias and the elders, who are very good at revealing the hidden and keeping us centered, then we can really dream big for the full moon in Taurus, which is where also we have the North Node, and that's about the future. And we have Uranus. So we're giving ourselves the potential for an explosive new direction on the full moon, right? With Uranus there. I think it's super cool.
Big dream is that Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. That's absolutely it. Jupiter's big and Neptune's dream. And this is the collective dream, is expanding, you know, and we're each, you know, kind of part of bringing that forward, and then a whopper doodle and of an eclipse here. And let's not forget, you know, it's worth a mention that it is on, you know, US election day.
Right.
So this is, what does this mean to that, you know?
Well, whoever chose that date, it was either crazy or very clever. Probably a bit of both, I would suggest.
Well, it's always the second Tuesday in November.
And just so happens this time round, but you know, it's also interesting. I don't know whether this is true in the US, but I've observed certainly in the UK that many elections would often happen on full moons, which I think is interesting.
do you have a regular way of scheduling those in the UK?
No, they just get scheduled when the government calls them.
Oh, I see.
Definitely.
Okay, well, this is a regular way of scheduling them. So,
Wow.
this is, destiny at work here.
Somehow, and of course, maybe that's part of the big revelation to come, and we're not going to go too far into the rabbit hole right now.
There's revelation for sure. Mercury opposite Uranus. This is going to change people's mind and kind of like a little bit of dysphoria. Is that like where you're like what?
Yeah.
Kind of.
I think that we could be, in the coming weeks, and I hope that everybody is able to ride the waves as best as they can. But we are in for a series of big shocks, and for many of us who've been looking at stuff for a long time in the world of the hidden, it's not going to be so shocking for us. But many people have not looked into those spaces.
Well, and here we are, right at this eclipse. It's absolutely activating.
Right.
Uranus Saturn too. I mean, Saturn is like right there. It's happening. Saturn is a manifester. It's like time, it's happening. And so this is just a big, big, big moment.
It's a big moment. And I think this is possibly one of the most intense and exciting periods of astrological movement that I've seen. It's super exciting for me because my chart's absolutely being activated all over the place, and I hope that I'm here next month, Kelley, to do the next show.
I hope so too.
I think working with the upper notes of the astrology, though, we're being given such an amazing opportunity here for creation, co-creation, community, connection to Mother Earth, connection to our heart. And sure, the other aspects of Scorpio season are going to be a little dark, a little messy, a little revelatory, and maybe some things are going to get brought up to the surface that the collective are not going to like to see. But then it's done. And, this is the energy of the Artemises we just worked with. They're like, well, it's short, it's sharp, it's painful, but then it's done and you can let it go. And that's what I think we're being encouraged now. We've got 2 weeks to really dive deep into our stuff at the individual level, which of course has a 100th monkey effect at the collective. And if we can be brave enough to look into the shadowy parts of ourselves, by the time we get to full moon in Taurus, then we can really start to kick on and start to illuminate everything in the world.
And, dive for that pearl.
Yes.
The desire, the truest desire that you want to be experiencing. And sometimes we don't even know what that is, but we have to feel it, right? We feel our way to it. And that's so much, what this is about. And then our reality changes.
Right.
So
do you have a couple more? Oops, sorry, Kelley, go on.
I was just going to say it's a collective process, and what's going on in the outer world, but we're each doing our own process of it. And so this can be quite a beautiful time. Chaos, it's Eros, the god of desire, comes out of chaos with the earth, Gaia series.
Right. And, it's also interesting because this is a period of death and rebirth. And we've just been working with the midwifing plants, the mugworts, the artemisias. And it's worth remembering that often births are a bit messy. There's lots of blood and messiness and fluid, and something is kind of revealed out of the darkness, right out of the womb space into the light for the first time. And, a birthing process is often a little messy, but then everything gets cleaned up and we have a beautiful new life form somehow in our hands to cherish and look at. And I think this is exactly the same process we're in. This is a sort of a potentially messy birth, but at the same time we're being offered this chance for it to be something beautiful. And
we can
that's
be
individual and collective.
Right? And our attitude makes a difference on how we experience it, whether we have a perspective on things or we're just right in the choppy waters and the messy stuff. So
right. So I see that you've got a couple more charts here. Did you want to bring those up as we kind of wind our way to the conclusion of today's show?
Well, this one is only going to show you the Orca series again, which is, now already been exact. So that I think I'm glad I noted that, because I think it's an important part of the process we're going through with letting go of what no longer serves, basically.
Yes.
And, so that's that. And, there's Huamea. She was closer to the new moon eclipse, but, on November 12th, Huamea is moving into Scorpio. So she,
November the 12th, Huamea is moving into Scorpio. Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
So she follows this eclipse cycle and says, okay, thanks for paving the way. I'm heading
Right.
in.
Right. Yeah, basically something like that. You lot go in front of me and take the torches and the lights and shine the path, and I'll follow a little bit afterwards once the pathway's been worked out for me, and I can just spread all of my creative love and energy through this. But I mean, it's beautiful. It really is. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one of the Sabian symbols. Is it Uranus? It's something about no, it's the one in Taurus. Where Uranus is, a symbolic battle between swords and torches. And just when you said torches, I remembered that, because the battle between swords and torches is might versus the light. And so there's the choice for us. Are we going with the light, or are we going with the might?
And that's the Sabian symbol for 17 degrees of Taurus, which is where Uranus is on this full moon.
Yeah, and the moon is at 16, so it's not quite there. You know, the 16 is an old teacher fails to interest his pupils in traditional knowledge. So there's a new way we need to move forward. We can't do it the old ways. It's just not going to work. It's not what people want. It's not what resonates. And then so there's the battle between, like, who's going to say how we do it? And that's where we claim our sovereignty and said, this is how I'm doing it. This is right for me. This is true for me. And not,
Okay.
that's not a negative thing. That's how we most strongly, you know, participate in the larger social context that is developing in new ways.
Absolutely. And maybe we just take the chart down for the wrap-up conclusion, because a couple of interesting points there just to bring everything to a place of beautiful conclusion. So that Sabian symbol is really interesting, but also the one before it with the moon is also, I mean, they're always interesting, right? But what you just shared has really got me thinking, because I can see that again with the Saturn square Uranus piece in Aquarius, again, is this choice, which way, and I think particularly when it comes to our own health and well-being, which methodology are we going to maybe let go of or adapt, or which one is going to be forced on us, or which one, you know, I see many interesting correlations to the whole piece around health that has been very much in the spotlight over the last few years. And again, which choices are we making? Are we choosing a more holistic, inwards technology, working with the new energies, beings and lights that are available, or are we kind of still adhering to something that maybe is less beneficial to us, that has been kind of given to us, and maybe we accepted unknowingly, unwittingly, not realizing there was another alternative that maybe was better for us, which I think is really a big one.
What you're saying here just totally aligns with Ceres and Orcus in Virgo. It's like listening to the body. It's like, you know, this is a delicate instrument. You know, we need to keep it in tune. We need to change the way, you know, because our bodies are changing. We need to change the way that we're feeding them and tending to our particular piece of earth, like you said, your terrain. Right.
You know, and let's kind of remind ourselves as we finish here for today that this piece of terrain, this piece of equipment, this, you know, meat bag, as my teacher used to call it, or spacesuit, is an incredible piece of technology. And as myself and Pete were talking about today in relation to the elder medicine, you know, we came to understand that elder has the ability as an immunomodulator to talk to the inner technology of our terrain, and with co-communication work out what is it that we need her to help us with, which I just think is mind-blowing, to be able to invite a being in who can do that just by communicating with my own inner technology tells me that this is something really exciting that is coming down the track to us, and I think is going to revolutionize how many of us, if not all of us, view health and well-being and working with nature medicine.
Certainly so.
So thank you everybody for listening. As always, thank you, Kelley, for sharing your beautiful wisdom and astrological knowledge. And again, if people haven't heard of you before, please do share your website right now.
www.helia, Helia, the female sun, heliastar.com.
Great. And I know that on previous shows, you've also shared about your books and many other things there. And you have a regular newsletter that's worth signing up for. So please do check out Kelley's website. There's always lots of interesting stuff coming through. So Yeah, thank you again, Kelley, for that. Thank you again for
Right.
sharing today.
It's
Thank you,
been
everybody.
wonderful as
Yeah,
usual. Thank you. Here
bless
we
you.
go, everybody. Get ready.
As one of my friends says, buckle up, buttercup. It's about to get bumpy. And you know what? Better to have the seatbelt on and make sure that you've got your eyes open whilst you're driving the car, the terrain
And you're
forwards.
strong,
Otherwise,
standing straight. Yeah.
exactly. So peace out, everybody. Keep it empty. Keep it beautiful. Keep it in the heart. And we'll see you next month, post Scorpio season, for whatever's coming down the track then. Ciao for now, everybody. Big love.